Dewey and Freire, I think, give authority to the teacher. For Dewey, it's the authority is knowing how to set up the conditions, right? That's their authority, is as being a good facilitator of an experiment. And for Freire, the authority is leading them towards this consciousness raising. Well, for Giussani, the authority of the teacher comes from knowing their subject matter because there's a past to be known. And of course, this would be the same with Maritain, who was very clear that the teacher brings authority. But another sense that I think Giussani is introducing, that the teacher's authority is also a moral authority. And it should be. And this was also very clear in Maritain. And Giussani's point, and again, I think this holds for the natural sciences, it holds for any of the liberal arts, music. Students are looking for teachers who embody, in the way that they live, a set of commitments. One of which you might wish it to be truth-seeking. Wouldn't it be nice if your teachers believed that the end of education was a quest for the truth? I mean, do we really want our teachers to be, dare I say, therapists for our feelings? Do we really want our teachers to be, dare I say, bureaucrats who teach us how to advance on a set of quantitative metrics? Now, sure, we want our teachers to care about our students' feelings. We want our teachers to care about their advancement in the world. There's nothing wrong with that. But is the position of a teacher that of a therapist or a bureaucrat? Or is the position of a teacher an authority in a subject who, in the imparting of that knowledge, understands, as Maritain said, that teaching is an art? And that by imparting knowledge, you are shaping and helping a young person form themselves into a mature, responsible being. And don't we want teachers who think of that as a calling, as a vocation, that personal dimension, that I learn so much from my students, I'm in front of an incredible thing called a human being. And I'm here to pass on knowledge, and in the act of passing on knowledge, help them form themselves into creatures of moral and intellectual virtue. Right. This is what Maritain wants. This is what Giussani wants.
And so well put. I want to stress that if you were my student, you would want me to care about Margarita, right? You don't want me to treat you by your race or your gender as essentialized categories. You are a historically rooted person with full of complexity, which all of those elements are part of who you are. And you want me, just as I would want you, to engage with me not by those categories that so that what you're if you do engage students from those categories, what you're learning from them are things you already know, because you've already placed those categories upon those students as representatives of these essentialized groups. But the surprise of the person, the surprise of whatever alchemy made possible you, when you walk into my class or I walk into your class, that's something to be engaged with.
Absolutely. And again, this comes up in the Love of Learning book, in my dialogues, with Bill Damon, and it's come up with so many other conversations that I've had. By no means am I saying that when a teacher enters the classroom, they don't need to be aware that maybe Jenny doesn't have food at home because her parents are too poor, or maybe Jose, only has one parent at home, or maybe in the neighborhood where a certain school is, there's a lot of gang violence. Of course, teachers should be aware of that. But does that mean that Jenny or Jose or, Johnny isn't a human being with curiosity and awe, who can be moved by a great work of literature, or who can fall in love with mathematics? Just because you fit a certain class of society, does that mean that you can't be captivated by the beauty of, dare I say, physics, right? And so in the chapter with Roosevelt Montas in The Love of Learning, we address this idea that liberal arts education is elitist. And he says very clearly, speaking from his own experience as a Dominican immigrant to New York City, as a teenager, moving to the United States, and then getting into Columbia University that has a required core curriculum, that Augustine and Aristotle spoke to him as a young student from the Dominican Republic, that he saw in those great works questions about the perennial search for truth, about identity. I mean, Augustine's Confessions is a work of psychology. It's a work of many things. It's often thought of as a work of theology or an autobiography. There's a deep psychology in Augustine's Confessions. And so Montez says, what are we doing when we say that because Johnny only has one parent at home and because Jenny comes to school hungry, she can't resonate with Augustine? Well, what we're saying is that we're creatures fundamentally who are material, and until we satisfy our material desires, let's not teach Jenny and Johnny Augustine. And I beg to differ. Having been in rural Haiti and in rural Latin America, my mother came to the United States from Cuba. I grew up my entire life around people from Cuba and Central America. I agree with what Montez says. We should care both about the fact that Jenny's hungry and Jose has a father who's not in the home anymore, and we should care about their mind. Right. And if we have the capacity and the resources to bring them the past, the tradition. Now, this doesn't mean, as Giussani is saying, this doesn't mean that tradition gets presented to these students as a closed system. No, not at all. But what it means is that education begins with a tradition and then invites the students that we're with to help us as educators see how these works that have stood the test of time speak to their experience as it is. But we leave it open to them what the societal and political transformation is. Dare I say, do we want our teachers to become political candidates or political agitators? Right? I've said this, do we want our teachers to be therapists, bureaucrats, or political agitators? Ask yourself that question. And the way that you answer that question is a fundamental way of you think about what education is. We are unfinished beings, but we have a nature and we have a purpose. And there's a system of education that can help students in their own particular context, for sure, come to understand tradition and make it anew for the modern world. And this is what Giussani wants to do. He wants to say tradition is not necrophilia. Tradition is a lived experience, but you can't have lived experience without tradition or without authority, Giussani would say.
Right. And so it is the case that I cannot understand Johnny, who doesn't have a father in the home and has a set of conditions. I can understand him well without knowing that, but I can't understand him well if I also don't understand that he has a soul and he's a human who might respond because maybe in part because of his particular conditions to Antigone or to anything else that stands the test of time, that speaks to humans as such. So that ability not to essentialize people by their particulars, while not ignoring the particulars, because they are a part of the person, and those parts of the person are elements in the quest they have for truth, right? They have ways of searching for truth. They have ways of connecting with literature thousands of years old that are going to be different from somebody else. But that combination means you don't reduce people to one thing in either side of the equation.